Hi, everybody, and welcome to September, second summer in Ohio. It's 80, or Stephanie's here. It's always summer in Florida. Has it been in the 90s for you, Steph?
No, it's been raining for about 17 days.
Oh, has it really? Wow.
Yes, it did not rain today.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Probably shouldn't say that.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
it's been in the 70s and low 80s because it's
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it has been nice, but so humid.
We have had no rain. The dogs were playing out in the backyard today, and as they came around the tree, it was just like dust clouds, like oh, poor grass. But we digress. So welcome to Mix and Match Club. This is our second to last class where we're going to demonstrate stitches. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to do tapestry crochet. And then next month, we're going to do baubles, popcorns, and puffs. And then November and December, we're going to work on how to block and join our strips and how to add the finishing touches and the edging and things like that. So hopefully your strips are coming along if you're making strips. I was telling our morning class this morning that they asked how many strips I had done, and I said I have not one done, but I have several that are about this far. So what I need to do now is lay all my little swatches out that I've started and decide which ones I really want to put together as a blanket. I do have some that are much further along that I knew for sure I was going to want in the blanket, and they're close to being done. But for some of them, I hadn't decided, and things happen. So I will be working on that. But today we're going to talk about tapestry crochet. So tapestry crochet is a way to use two colors. You could even use three colors of yarn in your crochet and be able to begin with one color, switch to another color, switch back and forth between colors in the same row. And the way you do that is we're going to work over our stitches. So in the back of our mix and match book, I'm going to tell you the exact page here. On page 139, she gives a very nice overview to tapestry crochet. So if you've never done it before and just need a little bit more information, that's in here on page 139. Hi, Rocky. But today I'm going to demonstrate two different motifs to you. The first one is called Big Sun. So it is a circle motif. And that is number 71. And then the second one I'm going to demonstrate is, I believe it's called Big Wow. It is number 79, and it's a chevron design, or the big W. The technique is the same for any of the motifs. These were just two different ones in that how often you switch the colors in a row is the big difference. Okay, so I'm going to start with one where you're not switching, you're doing larger blocks of color. And then we'll go to the other one where you're switching a little more often. So I did come up with a few pitfalls for you to avoid and some tips and tricks. So let's switch over to our camera here. All right. All right. Many of these motifs in the tapestry, she's done over the same number of stitches. So for example, Big Sun, number 71, she has you chaining 16 so that you'll end up with 15 stitches you're working across. Many of them are the same. You're working over 15 stitches. A couple of them you're working over 16 stitches. So you could mix and match a few of the motifs if you wanted to, or if you want to try out different techniques, you would have the same number of stitches you could work across. What she doesn't tell you in the actual, on the pattern page, is what stitch to use. That information is talked about on that page I showed you at the end. All of these stitches are done in single crochet. So she just tells you how many stitches to do in color A, how many stitches to do in color B, but she doesn't tell you what stitch to do. It is a single crochet. And I'll explain why as we go. And I will also show you that we did try to switch it up a little bit to try something different for one of the people in our class this morning who was having a little bit of an issue. All right, so if you're doing a foundation single crochet, you're going to not chain 16, you're going to do 15. And I just all started and I was hoping to get through a full motif and then time got away from me. And I just can't bring myself to rip it out. Let me just quickly do another foundation. If I've learned anything, if anything in this little journey, I really come to love the foundation crochet stitches. I had not fully embraced them previously, but working through this book has given me a lot of practice in doing it, which I think is essential. And leaning on Tony Lipsy's videos has been great too. It just is such a time saver for me. I encourage you to try it and to learn it if it's something you don't already know. Let's see where that. This is the nice thing is that if I had chained, if I had miscounted, I wouldn't necessarily know until I didn't have the right number of stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. So I need 4 more. So when a pattern tells you to, like this one, chain 16, and then your first row is single crochet, you're going to skip the first chain away from the hook. So you end up with 15 stitches. So what I'm doing here is doing my row of chain and my row of single all at the same time. So I'm making 15 of them. I think this is my last one, but I'm going to count to double check. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. Perfect. All right. So now I'm going to use my contrast color is going to be this gray. So my color A is the gold. The gray is my color B. So we're going to start on row 3. We've essentially done our chaining and our single, and we're ready to go. So chain 1 and turn. Now I'm on a wrong side row. I'm sorry, I apologize, a right side row. I am going to mark my right side row because this is a reversible pattern. If you were to put it down in the middle, it's a little can be a little more difficult to figure out what row you're on if you're counting your stitches. Mark your right side row, and then that will at least narrow it down for you, what row you have just completed. All right, so I chained 1 and turn, and I'm going to do, it says A5, B5, A5, which means I'm going to do 5 single crochets in A, 5 in color B, and 5 in color A again. So let's start, and I'll do a little reminder how we change colors. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and here I am making my 5th one. So I'm going to switch on my last yarn over to my new color, my B. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in my gold, and I'm ready to do 5 in my gray color. So now that I've switched, I'm going to need this gold color again after 5 stitches. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ignore my tail of the gray. The tail you're just going to deal with the way you deal with tails later. It's going to be in the middle of your square, but you're going to weave it away later. I'm going to take the gold that I'm going to need again. I'm going to snug it up just a little bit, and I'm going to lay it across the next 5 stitches that I need to work across. And I am going to go into the next stitch with my gray. And I'm not only going into the stitch, but I'm catching that gold yarn as I go. There's 1, 2. And if it starts to get a little bunchy or loopy, you can give it a little gentle tug. And I would say the first couple rows are a little fiddly. So I've done 2 stitches, 3, 4. Here's my 5th. So I need to do my last yarn over in the gold. And since I've carried it along, it's right here for me. I'm going to drop the gray to the back. I'm going to pick up the gold. And before I do my final yarn over, and this is just as you're getting used to it and getting situated with carrying another yarn, I want to make sure that I haven't caught any extra, that it got loose and there's a big loop hanging out here. So I'm just going to give it a little snug. It should just be lying underneath all of those gray stitches. You don't want to pull it tight because it will pucker, but you do want to give it a little snug. Yarn over, pull through for my last stitch. Now I'm going to use my gold and I'm going to work across my gray. So pull that gray to tighten up the end of that last stitch and I'm working into my stitch and over that gray for 5 stitches. 2, 3, 4, my last one, 5. So now both my working yarns are here at the end. Snug up my tail. I'm just going to lay it down. Looks pretty good. I got 5 gold, 5 gray, nice and even. Gosh, I can't even see that gold. I'm going to chain 1 and turn for the next row. And now you can see the gold. This is just a characteristic, and I can see my gray that I carried across here. A characteristic of tapestry crochet is that some of the color that you are covering, that you are laying across your stitches, is going to pop through. If you look through her pictures in the book, some places you can't tell, some places you really can. If it bothers you, if it really bothers you, tapestry crochet is probably not for you. But it can be kind of, if you embrace it as part of the design and keep the tension even, it becomes just another characteristic of the design. So I'm gonna work across another couple rows to show you how this can work. So now I am ready to do row 4. So I chained 1 and turned, still in my color A. So I'm going to work over my color B, and I'm going to do 4. 1, 2, 3, and there's, I almost went too far. Here's my last yarn over. I'm going to drop the gold, pick up the gray, and finish. I'm going to give the gold a little tug just to tighten the base of that stitch. And now I'm going to work 7 in my gray. So here's where my first little tip is. It is easy when you are transitioning from one color stitch to another to miss a stitch. So visually you think, oh, I'm switching to the gray, I'm aiming for the gray stitch. But there's actually one more gold stitch from the previous row that we need to complete. So make sure you're not skipping any stitches or your design will not come out. So we got to do 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that I have a little more fabric, it's a little easier just to work across that yarn. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more. Drop my gray, pick up the gold and finish the stitch. Give that gray a little snug. And do 4 in the gold, flipping over the gray. One way that you can avoid a huge color peeking through, if that's an issue for you, is to use 2 colors that don't have a huge amount of contrast. These 2 colors have a lot of contrast, so it's going to pop through. But if you were to pick, for example, these 2 colors, there's not a lot of contrast. So you might see a little bit of it, but it wouldn't be so glaring. So if it bothers you, aim for some colors that aren't so, don't have such a high contrast value. All right. So now I'm going to do one more row here. We're on to row 5, chain 1 and turn, which is a right side row, and there's my marker. So there's my check. I'm going to give this yarn a little bit of a snug. Because once I work, see, it was a little bit loopy. I don't want to pull it tight, but I can pull it so that's not obvious sticking out. If you are a really loose crocheter, you're probably going to have a lot more of the yarn showing, and it might not look as even. So you can keep that in mind, and maybe you want to adjust your hook size. This is row 5, doing 3 in A. 1, 2, and here's my 3rd. Drop the gold, pick up the gray, and then I'm going to do 9. Again, here's my transition stitch where I go from the gold to the gray. Don't forget this last gold stitch. 1, 2. When you drop the yarn and pick up the other yarn, keep your yarns at the back. It just keeps it consistent. I caught that gold just a little bit, so I'm just going to pull it to see if that will tighten it up. Yep. I don't have to take anything out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the right part of the stitch. 9. Drop my gray. And then 3 in my 8. 1, 2. And give that a little bit of a snug. So that's not looking too bad. I'm going to jump ahead here. Here's one that I've been working on that got a little further along. You can see my gold popping through on both sides, but where you really can't see too, I don't think it's too distinct, my gray. I did find that on the edges, but I kind of like it. It just looks like it's part of the pattern to me. But if it bothers you, just know that this is, you really can't get away from it too much. In the next sample, I'm going to show you a way to maybe combat a little bit of that. So this one, I'm going to show you, I'm going to switch to this one. I'm going to figure out where I was. I was going this direction. So I was on a wrong side row. The first time I used the gray was in row 3. So this was row 3. I'm going to zoom in so you can see how I count the rows. I think it's actually easier to count the rows because the gold popping through helps to show it off. Here's row 3, row 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I should be on row 12, which is in fact a wrong side row. And it starts row 12 with 4 gold. And it looks like I've done 1, 2, 3. And maybe I did one too many here. Here's my first. I'm just going to pull it back and do that. There's my first one. So I'm doing the finishing off the circle. And it does have you in the middle, you're just doing rows 6 through 10 are all the same, which just kind of builds up your sides here. So that's 2, 3, and 4. I feel like that was in. Nope, that's fine. Let me switch that to the gray. And then 7. This is previous one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nope, I'm on a different row. So I had 7 the last time, which means I should have 5 this time. Another way to check. It's possible I got my right side and wrong side mixed up. 2, 3, 4, 5, and then switch. And then 5. Cut the shrines out of there. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my 5th. Got that. And then 5. There's that transition stitch again. Looking over the gray. Incidentally, this is how I, anytime I'm doing crochet, if I am switching colors, I weave over my ends or work over my ends is by laying the end I want to work away. I just lay it across the top of the stitches I'm going to work, and it partially weaves it away, or at least moves your end to another section. So particularly if you're doing a granny square and you're beginning and ending all in the same spot, you end up with ends that have to be woven away, and it can be a little bulky. So if you work the end over a little bit, you can weave it away in a different section and you don't end up with so much bulk. Okay, so that's, and then I'll switch back to rows 14, 15, and 16 are all in the gold. And then I would repeat the motif. So I could drop the gray there and just work across, but I'm gonna run out of yarn in the gold. So that's the big sum, where you have larger blocks of each color. You're not switching every other stitch. Let me give you a demonstration on when you're switching pretty often. So I'm going to switch over to the big wow, which is, I think it's number 79. It is. Okay. So one of the people in class this morning, she was having a really hard time with her tension. She's a particularly loose person. And when you are, she was seeing a lot more of the color peeking through, and it didn't look even. So she She didn't mind that the color was peeking through, but it looked a little sloppy. And because she was loose, she tried to go down a hook size, but it gave her a much too firm of a fabric, which she didn't want in her blanket. Essentially, when you're using your two colors here, you're almost quite doubling the thickness of it, but you've got two yarns going over. So this little swatch does feel much different in thickness. It's not a huge difference, but you can feel it, than into one where you're just using a single. Because we're going over that extra strand every time across each row, it is a little bit thicker and can be a little firmer. So she had tried a smaller hook size, but it was too firm. So we experimented a little. And instead of doing a single crochet, we tried a half double crochet, which is a slightly taller stitch. So it had a little bit more room, but it still is pretty compact and square shaped. So it would keep the integrity of the design. You absolutely could not do a double crochet. Double crochet is too tall, too loose. It's taller than it is wide, and it won't keep your shape. It won't look like the design you want it to look like. So let me just show you, I'm going to continue on. So I've done a couple of rows in the half double crochet, and I actually quite like it. It is one of my favorite stitches. I find it very soothing, and it works up just a little bit quicker, which I always feel is kind of like a cheat. So let me figure out where I was. Here's another way to test. So it looks like I just finished a right side row, and I'm going to look here. It looks like I did 2 in the gold, so 2 in A, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in B, and then 1 in A, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in B, and then 2. So that coordinates with row 5, which was a right side row. So I'm ready to start row 6. Okay. This one was also started with a chain 16 or a foundation single crochet row of 15 stitches. Okay. So I'm going to start on row 6. The technique is the same. Even though I'm doing a half double, I'm still only going to chain 1. Okay. And I'm going to turn. Row 6 is, so here's where it's a little bit different. We're going to do 1 stitch in A. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to pull up a loop, I'm going to drop my gold, pick up my brown, and finish the stitch. So the stitch still looks like the gold. I'm going to do that one more time because I did it as a single and not a half double. Start with the yarn over. So when you're making a crochet stitch, come on, let's get attention here. Go into the stitch and pull up my first loop. The top of this stitch is going to be right over here. It's this loop that's closest to my handle is going to be the top of the stitch. It's going to be, no matter what I yarn over and finish it with, it's absolutely going to be gold. It doesn't matter. If you watch that stitch, if I drop the gold, pick this up and yarn over, it keeps that stitch gold, sorry, but it allows me to make the next stitch in my new color. All right, so it feels like you're not doing a complete stitch in gold, but you are. Row 6, so 1 in A, 3 in B. So here, don't miss this little stitch right here. Don't jump over here. It's those little transition stitches between the colors that you can miss. I didn't do a half double again. Thinking ahead. Okay, yarn over. There we go. 1, 2, 3, drop this, finish it with this. And then it's just 1 stitch again in the gold. Over. Drop the gold, finish it with the brown. And then it is 5 in color B. Come on, way down. Finish with this. I will say the switching all the time and turning around, you're going to get this. So every couple of rows, if it makes you crazy, you might want to stop and untwist your yarns. All right, so that was 5 in B. Let's do 1 in A. So by working over your other color, it's always there when you need it, when it's time to switch. You don't work that way in knitting. You have to carry floats across. But what it does do is it gives you a reversible fabric that you can't get in knitting. All right, so we switched back. We did 1. Now we're going to do 3. 1, 2. Skip the stitch. I'm already. Oh, nope, I got 1 more. But it would be like me to skip a stitch because those transition stitches are be a little hard to see. That's 1, 2. Fold. 3, drop this, finish, and then 1 in A. Even when you've got 1 stitch, make sure you're covering you're laying across your second color so that it gets tacked in. If you don't, it will get carried up and show in a way that isn't, it will look a little sloppy. So we're starting to get our design show up there. I'm going to give this one a little bit of a tug. So that was row 6. Here was row 5. I think I kind of like, I feel like the half double is, it's a little squishier. This feels a little firmer to me than the single. The single is definitely a tighter stitch. I would recommend giving this a try if you're having a hard time or not liking the way yours looks. I feel like it doesn't change the really overall height of it drastically. I mean, it is 1 yarn over taller, but I'm sorry, not even a whole yarn over taller. It's a half a yarn over taller. But I think it does give a nice loose fabric, and it covers the, it's not so loose that you can you see the color you're covering. So this was a good solution for her, and I quite liked it. I might actually finish this one in the half double. I get kind of bored with single crochet. It feels like it takes a long time for me. I prefer half double. It just, I don't know that it's realistic, but it just feels like it's going faster. And it has a nice squishy feel. I feel like the half double crochet is almost a perfectly square stitch, and I think it shows off the design pretty nice. What else do I have to say about tapestry crochet? Are there any questions before I look through my notes here? Steph, did you have a question?
No, I was just going to respond. No, thank you.
You're
That was very good.
absolutely. So all of these motifs will work the same way. You've got your 2 colors, you're laying across. It's just how often do you want to be switching? For example, I didn't do, let's see, there was like this one, Let me zoom out, sorry. The diamond tiles, like, I just didn't want to, I love the way it looks. I didn't want to think that hard. I feel like it's a lot of switching back and forth. And it just was more than I wanted to do. But you can get a great design that way. So if you're willing to do that, it looks great. This would be another one that has big chunks of color, which is nice if you don't want a round motif. Let's see. This one was kind of fun too. It had big chunks of color, which was nice. Another one with big chunks of color. And I'm going to zoom in just a little. You can really, well, you guys have got the book, but you know, you can see her other color popping through. It's just part of the design. Oh yeah, for sure. This one, I was never going to do. That would, I mean, it's adorable and maybe as a single motif, but I wasn't going to want to repeat that. It was just more, a little more tedious with one stitch, two stitches, one stitch, two stitches. It's a lot of switching back and forth. And once you get the rhythm, you switch to the next row and it's a different rhythm. So you just kind of have to know that going in. And I say test it out, but they all work the same way. This one would be a fun one, the big Ziggy. So that's it for the tapestry. They all work the same way, working over your second color and switching back and forth. Rocky, did you have any questions?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I just came back in town, so I'm like really.
I get it.
Yep.
Yep, I get it. We were talking earlier that we're going to be coming to, we have one more month of stitches and then we'll be talking about joining our strips. And I think that means I have to finish some strips.
Yeah. I'm a little bit behind, but you know, I'll be, yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I think actually having all of these little swatches would be kind of fun to lay them all out because then I can really see it like, ooh, no, I don't, you know, without committing to a full strip. I'm like, ooh, now I really don't like where this is going to go. So I'm going to turn my, my lack of finishing a project into a positive and make it work for me. And then finish some strips from there. So that's all I've got for you today.
That's good. Good notes.